both sides have blame. Weapon, it had a part in the violence.
No, if you're a patriot and you show up to stand up for American values and say that it is wrong to be racist and to stand outside a synagogue with automatic machine guns and scare the Jewish people inside, I think that is not to be equivocal.
You're talking about something totally different. No one said equivocal. No one said equal, and that's one of the places where this went off the rails. He never said equal blame.
He said there were very good people among the neo-Nazi protesters. He did. Don't roll your eyes. He did say those words.
He didn't say there were very good people among neo-Nazi protesters.
He said there were very good people on the other side.
There are people that were opposed.
It was clear what he was talking about.
Look, can I tell you this? I am so uncomfortable having this conversation. And that's what this woman said before this, because I know what's in my heart, and I know that I don't think anyone is different, better, or worse based on the color of their skin, but I feel like there is nothing any of us can say right now without being judged.
You know, Melissa, there have been a lot of tears on our network and across the country and around the world. We have people who are serving, as my father did. He came to visit. We took him to the Statue of Liberty for the first time in his life yesterday. We cried together. It's a difficult place where we are, but it's not where we've been, it's where we are. This is not 1950. We can do this. We can have this conversation. Oh, yes, we can. And it's okay if we cry having it. Overtime! I'm cheap, baby! I have to start with the obvious, right? Because we had one of those shows today that in our 3+ years today, I mean, we've been around a little bit, you and me. This was one of those shows that when people say, why do you love Outnumbered and what you do? This is on that list, atop that list. It's difficult to talk about things like race. It's really difficult to talk about things like race when people have decided that if you don't agree with them, they hate you. It's really hard to talk about it when they express that hate. Today, we were brought to tears. Melissa, you led the way. Because you had a heartfelt moment that, you know, I'm not like that. That's what you said. I don't want to paraphrase what you said.
No, I know what's in my heart. And so it's so uncomfortable to have these situations because you feel like, I think everybody on every side feels like what they say is going to be taken the wrong way. And you know where you're coming from. I know what's in my heart, no one else does necessarily, you know, and but you're just so afraid to have the other side misinterpret what you're trying to say. And I don't know, I think we came to the conclusion that we're all trying to hear each other. And it is a bit easier in our group, not on television, but us talking, because I think we all are on this couch. I can say we all have respect for each other and are very fond of each other. And I know that all of you have pure hearts. And so that makes it easier, thank you, but it's hard, and we know the audience is judging us too. You know, we don't want to be misunderstood by the audience, and it's just it's difficult. It's hard to come out here.
Can I ask you a question, Juan? And this is hard for me to ask because I have been told on Twitter that I am brown, but I am not brown enough.
Okay.
That I am Pollyanna because I have this sense about me that I know we can do better and we can go forward as a nation as a whole, that anybody who wants to sit at the table, let's just get together and talk. And I try to walk that out. I really do with all my heart. And I don't think that it's that I'm short-sighted or naive. It's that I am hopeful, that hope over history. I know we can do better through love. And that was such an honest moment during the TV version of us. Are we at a place now where we really can go forward?
I think we're in a better place than ever, and I don't think it's Pollyannish to say that. I guess I'm speaking out of school here, but I think that you just had a trip with your 80-year-old dad to the Statue of Liberty.
Yesterday.
And
for the first time, and he served as a combat pilot in this nation. And
if you talk to your dad, or I talked to my dad who's deceased, I don't think there's any question they would say, what do you mean? Obviously, America is more a land of opportunity for people of color, specifically for black Americans, than it's ever been. Ever. By any measure you want to employ. So for you guys to sit around and whine and complain, I understand about legitimate protest and direction, but let's also celebrate the fact that America is a country that is capable of change and recognizing its founding principle of everyone being equal and having equal opportunity. We strive for that. We obviously stumble and fail at various times, but it's so important to have that conversation and to acknowledge the progress that's been made.
I know, Sandra, you're...
I'm looking at outnumbered overtime, and it's interesting because the conversation, sometimes I log on and it's people saying something,
Well, they like our
silly about
shoes
whatever.
and- yeah.
There's a very serious conversation taking place on here, and I think that's worth noting because I don't think this is just dinner table conversation that's happening right now. I think this is going into office places, schools,
Planes, trains.
and
yeah.
I think you saw on the couch today just how difficult the conversation is to have. So.
One of the things that Sandra and I have in common is that we both have military dads. And when you have somebody who serves in the best of times and the worst of times in the country, it's amazing that perspective that I think they teach us, no matter what our race or culture is. And one of the things that my dad shared with me when he was serving in Vietnam as a combat pilot was, I was fighting for a country that I loved that didn't love me back at that time. You will fight for things, Harris Kimberly, he's taught me, at times when it's not popular to fight for them and people will judge you. But we have to stand in hard, tough places sometimes so that we can stand together in the end. And those words have been so impactful, but I think only a soldier probably could communicate
What a
that.
good father. You have to bring him back here. He's only visited us
He
once on the
loves
set. And
being here. Oh my
he was
gosh,
so
are you
wonderful
kidding?
to have
He
here.
likes the color wheel.
That's where you get it.
Yes, I combine honestly my
But
dad.
I was taken by your point that there are black people who want to put you in a box,
Oh yeah.
and people who want to impose racial orthodoxies on what you can say, how you can behave, how you can act, who your friends are. This, to me, is an impediment to real conversation and real change.
But I'm willing to have it if it means we go forward. I'm willing to sit down with anybody and have them, you're not like me. Well, let's talk about how we're different and what our experiences are and what our commonalities are. I'm willing to have that conversation, but we're not all supposed to be the same, right?
No, and I don't want to be, but I think this is part of, to me, a step back, with the cliques and the kids in high school. The black kids are in that table and the white kids are over here. What I have found when I go out and do reporting is most often now, the racials, especially in the high schools and colleges, they're able to interact. But what you get is the nerds hang together, the jocks hang together,
I
right?
was a nerd.
The goths all hang out together.
Yeah.
But when people have to, especially as they get older, deal with this situation, deal with the reality of residential segregation, of difficulties between the cops and poor black communities, then all of a sudden people are like, well, I don't really want, I get so uncomfortable with this conversation. But praise to God, you can do it, right?
But it's so much more effective, I think, when people talk about how they feel and they're able to share that. I mean, I heard one woman say earlier today on TV that when she sees a statue in her community of, a celebrated Confederate leader, that to her it feels like that person was an abuser of her and that they've put up a statue to her abuser and it hurts her. And that's something, when you say that's how you feel, oh my gosh, you can really relate to that. And maybe, look at the reaction when I say I feel like I know my heart is good, but people are judging me and that hurts. Like all of a sudden we can relate to each other and kind of make some progress. I think when you talk about how you feel as opposed to making accusations about what the other person really means, that's where we get off track. Is when somebody says, well, you're this, you're meaning this, and you're like, how do you know I mean that?
Right.
I don't know. And so it's just sort of like,
and that's when the conversation shuts down.
Shuts down as opposed to keep going.
So I know you've been talking about this all morning, Melissa, right?
Very. When that woman,
I agree with
about these CEOs leaving the President's Manufacturing Council. A seventh one did during our hour. 3M just made the announcement that their CEO is stepping down from it. That total 7. CryptoFacts just wrote us on the Outnumbered Overtime saying 7 companies just left Trump's Manufacturing Council. His rhetoric is making industry leave him. I was wondering how you think about that happening.
I hope that they're making a business decision because that's the only one they're allowed to make. They are in the legal role as CEO of that company and they have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders. I'm sorry, you don't have the right to have feelings as a CEO. You don't have that luxury. You are responsible to those shareholders. And if they're making the decision that they think by virtue of, I represent Walmart, and by virtue of being on the council, I think it's going to hurt my company economically because I think customers are not going to come because they see me here with the president, fine. But your responsibility is to light up earnings on Thursday morning, Walmart CEO. It's not to go out there and lecture. You can leave your feelings at the door. And I think it's naive that if you're at the table, you do have more of an impact. And I think we've said that point, and that's true.
So
if
that's
at the table, you can impact policy.
But
You're edifying us in a way, because I hadn't heard